What really happened behind the scenes? The truth is darker and more twisted than anyone could have imagined. The Howard Stern Show was more than just a radio program, it was an institution. For decades, it entertained millions with its unique blend of humor, shocking interviews, and unpredictable moments. Howard Stern had built an empire, and his voice was a constant companion to many across the country. But everything changed one chilly morning, when the world woke up to an unsettling headline. The Howard Stern Show might be canceled. What initially seemed like a rumor quickly grew into a full-blown crisis. The news spread like wildfire, catching fans and insiders off guard. No one knew exactly why the cancellation was being considered, but whispers soon began to emerge. Inside the studio, a series of strange incidents had taken place in recent weeks. Equipment that was vital to the show's daily broadcast had been mysteriously damaged. Microphones stopped working, soundboards malfunctioned, and computers would randomly shut down in the middle of live shows. Technical difficulties happen in radio all the time, but this felt different. It was too consistent, too targeted. Then there were the strange notes left behind. Cryptic messages appeared taped to the studio door and scattered around the building. Some were threatening, others were puzzling, but all shared one chilling element. They seemed designed to intimidate and scare. Employees began feeling unsafe, and morale plummeted. Some staff members reported receiving strange phone calls late at night, silent calls, or ones where heavy breathing was the only sound on the other end. The studio security system was triggered multiple times, yet when guards arrived, no intruders were found. This buildup of strange, threatening events forced the show's producers to consider a worst-case scenario, shutting down the show entirely. The decision was gut-wrenching. Howard Stern was known for pushing boundaries and challenging norms, but now it seemed his own team was vulnerable to forces they couldn't control or understand. The tension behind the scenes was palpable. Fear mingled with confusion, and the question on everyone's mind was, who would want to silence the show, and why? Fans reacted with shock and disbelief. The Howard Stern Show was more than just entertainment. It was a voice for many who felt unheard. Industry insiders began to speculate. Was this a rival media company trying to sabotage Stern's reign? Were political forces involved, upset with the show's often controversial content? Or could it be something more personal? Theories spread rapidly, fueling a media frenzy. Every minor detail was analyzed for clues, but nothing concrete emerged. Meanwhile, the show's staff worked around the clock to keep the broadcast going despite the setbacks, determined not to give in to fear. Throughout it all, Howard Stern remained a figure of resilience. Though worried about the show's future, he was determined to fight back against whatever threat loomed. But the deeper the investigation went, the more it became clear that this was no ordinary challenge. The situation was far more dangerous and complicated than anyone had expected. The story was just beginning, and the fallout would change the world of entertainment forever. As the chaos surrounding the Howard Stern Show's potential cancellation unfolded, an unexpected figure suddenly became part of the story: Donald Trump. The former president and business magnate had rarely been connected directly to the world of radio entertainment, making his sudden appearance in this unfolding drama both surprising and puzzling. News outlets quickly picked up on the fact that Trump had publicly weighed in on the controversy, sparking waves of speculation and intrigue. People wondered why Trump, known for his brash and outspoken style, would comment on the fate of a radio show. Some thought it was merely a casual remark from a man who often spoke on a wide variety of topics, but others suspected there was more beneath the surface. Over the years, Trump had shown a knack for getting involved in unexpected situations, often with deeper motives or strategic goals hidden behind his words. His involvement immediately raised questions. Was he connected to the threats? Did he have a stake in the show's continuation or its downfall? Reports soon emerged hinting at a surprising connection between Trump and the Howard Stern show. Back in the 1990s and early 2000s, Trump had appeared as a guest on the show multiple times, sometimes sharing stories and sometimes clashing with Stern's blunt style. Some insiders speculated that their relationship had evolved over time, possibly including business dealings or personal favors. This history made Trump's sudden interest seem less random and more calculated. Howard Stern had, after all, been one of the few celebrities who did not shy away from criticizing Trump during his political career. Trump's public comments could be seen as a strategic move to repair old wounds or realign alliances. The media seized on every detail of Trump's statements. Some headlines portrayed him as a defender of free speech and entertainment, claiming he was standing up against shadowy forces trying to silence a popular voice. Others accused him of meddling for his own gain, stirring trouble where none should exist. The public was divided, and debates raged across social platforms, news channels, and talk shows. Behind the scenes, investigators found Trump's unexpected interest complicated the case. His high profile brought enormous attention, turning what was once a private studio problem into a national spectacle. Authorities began to consider that the threats against the show might be linked to broader political or financial agendas involving powerful figures beyond the immediate radio world. Despite the growing chaos, the true nature of Trump's involvement remained unclear. No direct evidence connected him to the sabotage or threats, yet his public stance influenced the investigation's direction and media narrative. The presence of such a controversial figure shifted the entire story, turning it into a high-stakes game of power and influence. As the investigation deepened, it became clear that the Howard Stern show was no longer just about entertainment. It was entangled in a complex web of relationships, rivalries, and secrets, one in which Donald Trump was a surprising but undeniable player. The question hanging over everyone's head was this: was Trump simply a vocal supporter, or was he part of a larger, more hidden scheme that had yet to be revealed? The mystery only grew thicker, drawing more eyes and suspicion into the growing storm. As the investigation into the threats against the Howard Stern show continued, a darker and more complicated picture began to emerge. What at first seemed like isolated acts of sabotage started to reveal connections to much larger forces operating behind the scenes. Detectives discovered that the attacks on the studio were not random, but part of a carefully planned effort by powerful players who wanted the show off the air for reasons far beyond entertainment. Sources close to the investigation revealed that several influential media executives had grown increasingly frustrated with the show's bold approach to controversial topics. Howard Stern's willingness to challenge the powerful and expose uncomfortable truths made him a target. These executives feared losing control over the narrative and were rumored to have pressured others to silence the show. The sabotage was believed to be a form of intimidation, a warning to Stern and his team to back down or face worse consequences. But it didn't stop there. Political connections soon surfaced. Certain political groups, uneasy with Stern's critical commentary on politicians and policies, were suspected of lending support to the campaign against the show. The radio program's vast audience meant its influence could sway public opinion, a risk some in political circles were unwilling to take. Investigators found that some threatening messages contained coded references hinting at political motives. The investigation also uncovered a network of shadowy individuals who operated behind the scenes, using intimidation, fear, and manipulation to achieve their goals. This group was highly organized and had access to resources that made their actions both bold and difficult to trace. They appeared to have ties to corporate interests as well, including companies that would benefit if the show disappeared from the airwaves. As the threat level increased, the Howard Stern show staff became more vigilant. Security measures were stepped up, and the show's producers worked closely with law enforcement to protect their team and equipment. But even with these precautions, the sense of danger never fully disappeared. Everyone involved knew the stakes were higher than just canceling a radio program. It was about controlling a powerful platform that influenced millions. Investigators began to suspect that the conspiracy extended beyond any single individual or group. It was a complex web of interests intersecting: media moguls, political figures, corporate leaders, each with their own reasons for wanting Stern silenced. The challenge was untangling these motives and uncovering the puppet masters pulling the strings. Despite the mounting pressure, Howard Stern and his team refused to back down. Their determination to continue broadcasting became a symbol of resistance against censorship and control. However, the risk grew daily. Threats escalated from mere sabotage to more direct dangers, and the line between professional rivalry and personal attack blurred. The deeper the investigation went, the more it became clear that the forces working against the show were not just powerful, they were ruthless. This was a battle over influence, money, and control, and the Howard Stern show was caught in the middle. The story had evolved from a strange series of threats into a high-stakes game of power where no one was safe and trust was in short supply. In the shadows of this dangerous game, something unexpected waited, an internal betrayal that would soon change everything. But for now, the Howard Stern show stood defiant, ready to fight whatever came next. The world was watching, unaware of how close the show was to being silenced forever. Just when the investigation seemed to be closing in on outside forces and shadowy conspirators, a startling discovery turned the entire case inside out. The mounting pressure and suspicion directed outward suddenly shifted inward as evidence surfaced, implicating someone from within the Howard Stern show's own circle. The person many trusted had been orchestrating the threats and sabotage all along, a betrayal so shocking it sent shockwaves through the entire team and their supporters. This insider was a longtime staff member, someone who had worked closely with Howard Stern and had been part of the show's inner workings for years. At first, the idea seemed impossible. Why would someone dedicated to the show put it in danger? But as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered motives rooted in jealousy, resentment, and ambition. This individual had felt overlooked and undervalued, harboring bitterness that grew over time. Rather than confronting these feelings openly, they chose a dangerous path: to undermine the show from the inside and force a shutdown, believing it would clear the way for a new beginning, perhaps one in which they could rise to power. The sabotage had been carefully planned, with this insider exploiting their intimate knowledge of the studio's systems and routines. They knew exactly which equipment to target to cause the most disruption and how to leave threatening messages that would appear external and frightening. Their goal was to create chaos without immediately revealing their involvement. The insider had also manipulated staff dynamics, sowing distrust and confusion to mask their actions. Even more surprising were the connections uncovered linking this person to influential figures outside the show, including some associated with Donald Trump's circle. These ties suggested a larger scheme at play, possibly involving coordinated efforts to control or influence the media through strategic alliances. While Trump's exact role remained murky, the insider's relationship with these outside contacts added a new layer of complexity to the case. When the betrayal was finally exposed, the impact was profound. Colleagues felt stunned and deeply hurt by the deception. The public, too, struggled to reconcile the image of a tight-knit team with the reality that one of their own had nearly destroyed everything. For Howard Stern, it was a personal and professional blow. Trust, once broken, would not be easily restored. The revelation also changed the investigation's course. Instead of chasing external conspiracies alone, authorities focused on uncovering how far the insider's plans went and who else might have been involved. Questions arose about whether others within the organization had been complicit or aware of the scheme, but chose silence. The search for answers intensified. Despite the betrayal, the show's staff rallied. They worked harder than ever to repair the damage, both technical and emotional. Security was tightened further, and new safeguards were put in place to prevent a repeat of such an internal threat. Howard Stern, known for his resilience, used this painful experience as fuel to keep the show alive, determined to overcome the odds stacked against them. This unexpected twist revealed a harsh truth about the fragility of trust and the dangers hidden even where it seems safest. The Howard Stern show had faced powerful enemies outside, but it was the enemy within that nearly ended its legacy. The story now took on a new dimension, one of betrayal, ambition, and the dark complexities lurking behind the scenes of even the most successful ventures. As the investigation continued, the world watched closely, knowing that the next chapter would reveal even more secrets and challenges. The Howard Stern show had survived its darkest hour, but the battle was far from over. With the insider's betrayal exposed and the immediate threats neutralized, the Howard Stern show began the slow process of healing and rebuilding. The team was battered but not broken. Months of tension and fear had tested their resilience, yet their determination to keep the show alive grew stronger than ever. Howard Stern himself returned to the airwaves with renewed focus, carefully navigating the complex landscape that had nearly destroyed his career. The scandal left deep scars, both personal and professional. Trust, once shattered, took time to mend. Staff members were cautious around one another, wary of hidden agendas or lingering doubts. The sense of family that had once defined the show felt fragile. But from this fragility came a new strength, a shared commitment to protect what they had fought so hard to preserve. Meanwhile, the public remained captivated by the story that had unfolded behind the scenes. Fans who had followed the show for years felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief that the show was saved, anger over the betrayal and the hidden battles that almost silenced their favorite voice. The drama became a cautionary tale about fame, power, and the fragile nature of trust in a world where influence can both elevate and destroy. Donald Trump's involvement remained an enigma. While his public support for the show had stirred speculation, no direct evidence ever proved his hand in the sabotage or the insider's scheme. Some believed he was a well-meaning ally caught in the crossfire. Others suspected he had used the controversy to advance his own agenda. The truth behind his role was never fully uncovered, leaving it as one of the story's lingering mysteries. Journalists and investigators continued to debate his influence, but the final verdict remained elusive. The Howard Stern show's survival also exposed larger truths about the entertainment industry and the power struggles within it. The crisis had revealed how vulnerable even the most established voices could be when confronted by forces seeking to control or silence them. Media executives, political operatives, and corporate interests often operated in shadows, shaping narratives and destinies far from public view. In response, the show implemented sweeping changes. New security protocols were introduced, both physical and digital, to protect against future threats. Staff underwent training to recognize and respond to internal conflicts before they could escalate. Howard Stern embraced a more cautious approach to his public persona, balancing his trademark boldness with a sharper awareness of the dangers around him. Despite everything, the show's legacy endured. It remained a platform for raw, unfiltered expression, a place where voices could be heard, controversies explored, and boundaries pushed. The near cancellation became part of the show's mythology, a testament to its resilience and the complicated forces that shape entertainment today. As the dust settled, those closest to the story reflected on the lessons learned. They understood that success could attract enemies both obvious and hidden, that trust was priceless and fragile, and that the fight to maintain freedom of expression was ongoing. The Howard Stern show had faced one of its darkest moments and emerged stronger, but it also carried a warning. No one is immune to the shadows that lurk behind the spotlight. The story of the Howard Stern Show's near downfall remains a gripping chapter in media history, a true crime tale where fame, power, betrayal, and mystery collided. Its impact will be felt for years to come, a reminder of how quickly everything can change, and how courage and resilience can sometimes make all the difference.